being here, I'll be a little bit of everywhere.
What is the perfect knife? One that can save your life. It's tough and capable, formidable and inescapable. Can one knife do it all? From the field to the mall, in the desert or office, for the pro and the novice, for the operator and the legislator, the fisherman, the veteran, the man driving the truck across town. The OG is that one special knife that you need in your life. It's not made just for war, so much it's good for every daily need. The perfect EDC. I can't afford a custom, so I'm glad there's an option to own a production for such low cash consumption. So you're bringing it home, and you don't have to roam all over the web to find a better knife. The OG is here, and the price is so near to something cheaper you might otherwise order. But the quality is higher, and it's more of a fighter than what the price tells you it is. Fox Knives hit a home run, so hurry and get one. I don't expect them to be around long. A legacy name who's been long in this game put his name on the box, and it was well executed by Fox, that classic original look. But which will you took, the Licata or the plain clean?
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jim. Thank you so much for joining me as always. Today we're going to be taking a look at something that I feel is very special from Fox Knives. Now, I like Fox Knives. I can't say that I love Fox Knives. I think they've had a few hits and misses over the years, but overall in general, they've always tended to be on the higher quality side of things, being made in Italy, and always fairly priced. But today is something for me that's very, very special. For those that don't know, I am a big fan of Bob Terzuola, have been for, well, pretty much most of my life, definitely most of my knife collecting life. And what you're going to see here is a very close replication to his original custom ATCF. This is the Fox Knives and Bob Terzuola original gangster. From here on out, I'll just refer to it as the OG because it's easier. Let's go ahead and get this open. Inside of the cardboard box, you'll get your zippered pouch with the Terzuola logo on a PVC patch. And then inside of here, what else do we have? We have a nice sticker of the OG. Their little thing that says, "We make it sharp," which I believe, let's see what's inside here. Yeah, just some quick basic information. A thank you for buying, and then your care sheet and warranty information on the knife. And then there's a little disc, a clear disc, that's sitting behind the pocket clip to keep it from rubbing on the micarta in transit. Now let's get inside. Inside the pouch, you'll see the canvas bag. And inside of the canvas bag is the reason why we're all here. There she is. The original gangster, the OG. And man, this thing feels great. If you are a fan of the ATCF, then this is pretty much going to be required for you to own. Now, there have been a few production renditions of the ATCF over the years. Most recently, Bob released the ATCF Lite, which is a little miniaturized flipper version of the ATCF design. And then the year before that was, of course, the ProTech ATCF. but that was a side opening automatic. If you want to get as close to the original of the original custom, that's going to be this. So it's going to be a manual opening knife in black micarta. And it's funny because you've heard me talk over the years that I do not like micarta. However, on this, I love it because it's so close to being what the originals were that historically I feel it's important to see it replicated in that way. Now, there is, as you could see, a pretty big deviance. Only later in the model life were you able to get into a flipper tab option. So this one, you have the thumb disc and you have the flipper as well. So this is a flipper version of the ATCF. Now, the OG is a new production rendition of the ATCF, and I've had the chance to review a few of Bob's knives over the years between a couple of his customs and some of his production designs. And this time around, I actually want to use his own words to describe the history of the ATCF design, because Fox Knives has a quote from him on their website. So here we go. In 1986 to 87, I conceived the ATCF drawing inspiration from my experience with military and security personnel, both in Central America and in the United States. My goal was to create a unique knife, lightweight yet robust, easily accessible, and comfortably carried on various articles of clothing. Completely corrosion resistant with ambidextrous functionality for opening and closing, and usable with one hand. Now, that's a big difference, because if you go back to where knives were back then, especially Bob's work, Bob began, like most makers, by making fixed blade knives. And it was through his experience with the military personnel that he had made knives for in Guatemala that made him realize, hey, having a single-handed operational, more concealable folding tactical knife would be a really, really good idea. So anyway, I'll get back to Bob's quote here. The ATCF marked a turning point in the tactical knife industry, being the first to be entirely assembled with screws instead of pins and rivets. He says, I introduced the thumb disc to facilitate opening with both hands, an innovation widely imitated by knife makers worldwide. Among the distinctive features of the ATCF is the serration at the top of the blade that matches the finger guard at the base of the handle when the knife is closed, providing protection and a secure grip during use. And that is the thumb ramp right there that has the jimping right there on it. And you do have a nice secure grip with this particular knife. It feels so good in the hand, especially if you have large hands. The ATCF deeply influenced the world of knives, becoming one of the most imitated models. As I like to say, the ATCF is the classic form that has shaped an entire industry. And that is the end of Bob's quote. Now, Bob, who was born in Brooklyn, New York, graduated from NYU and became a man of the world soon after during his time in the Peace Corps. It was during his time in the Peace Corps that he became enamored with Guatemala and settled there as a gemologist and jade carver. He took that degree of precision and folded it over into making knives. And as I mentioned before, he began by doing fixed blades that he was making for Guatemalan soldiers. He took his extensive knowledge of military's needs in knives and developed what he felt was missing at the time, a discreetly carryable tactical folding knife. Since he was the first to recognize this need and the first to develop one, he coined the term that we all know today, the tactical knife. A blade that pierces as well as it cuts, a handle that's ergonomic and tough, and other specifics coming together for a purpose-built fighter and all-around knife. Survival, fighting, food prep, everything that you need for an edge in the field. That even goes to the thumb ramp and the jimping. The way that the whole knife is laid out was meant to be for use for absolutely everything. If you had that military mindset, if you were out in the field, this is a knife that you could rely on to do everything. But also food prep and things like that. This was made for everything that you could come across. Now, ATCF stands for Advanced Technology Combat Folder, and I believe it's still Bob's most well-known design. The ATCF is the OG, and I think that's why this knife holds the place that it does in his history. Let's go over the specs very quickly here. Move this off to the side. Get the flashlight out of the way. Okay. Your specs are as follows. The overall length is 8.66 inches with a blade length of 3.5 inches. It's actually 3.54 inches in Magna Cut with a claimed Rockwell hardness of 62 to 64 HRC. And I think that's a big deal because if you're going to use a steel like Magna Cut, you want to optimize it for the performance that it's capable of. And I've seen a few makers put out Magna Cut knives that are 59, 60 Rockwell, and it just doesn't make sense. Because the big deal with Magna Cut is it's giving you the balance that other steels haven't been able to in the past, giving you high hardness capability and also high toughness capability at the same time while maintaining a high degree of corrosion resistance. So to only bring it to 59 or 60 Rockwell doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense because you're not maximizing what this blade steel is capable of. Fox Knives did do that, and I applaud them for that. Blade thickness is 160 thousandths of an inch thick, so it's substantial enough that you feel the presence of that steel. You feel the weight and the substance of it, but it's not so thick that it's got terrible geometry where it's just going to start stacking and building up as you're cutting through something. It's wonderfully useful for everything. And following into, and I kind of want to give a close-up on this if I can get the camera to focus. Following up with Bob's philosophies, you've got a well-supported tip here. It comes down to a nice sharp point, but it's well-supported right behind the tip so that you have a blade that's very well capable of piercing as well as cutting. So it's a flat ground blade that gives you excellent geometry for cutting. And then you've got this nicely supported tip for piercing. It's pretty much going to do everything. And that handle is done in black micarta over a single steel liner. Oops. We'll get to that in a minute. There is your steel liner lock. That is going to be stainless steel. The back spacer is black G10, and you have a hidden lanyard post back there. All of your hardware is bronze anodized titanium. Then you have the bronze anodized thumb disc and the bronze anodized titanium pocket clip. Now, to the things that I don't love about the knife, because I do love this knife. I think it is fantastic. I am wonderfully enamored with it. I wish that on the thumb disc, which is a calling card of Bob's, I wish that they could have done the checkering a little bit more faithfully, a little bit sharper. Because when you're using this thumb disc, you have a few different ways to use it. You can slow roll it. Very nice. You can flick it from the bottom side because you're hitting that edge. Or you can push up and flip upwards because your thumb will grab onto the disc. Now with Bob's Custom, it's very, very deeply checkered. So you've got an incredible amount of grip. And this is a little bit smoother. I don't want to say it's smooth. It's not as grippy as the Custom. Now, I wouldn't expect it to be a 1-to-1 on the Custom because this is not a multi-$1,000 handmade Custom. There's always going to be some differences. Another point that I have here is the jimping on the flipper tab is too smooth. there's no edge to any surface of the jimping. So unfortunately, my finger tends to slide off of it fairly often. Now, when I'm focusing on it, I have no problem whatsoever. It's a very easy blade to light switch. The action they did on this is really, really nice. It's quick, it's fast to deploy, and it's smooth on the open and close, but it is not a drop shut blade. So you have to kind of give it that little wiggle, wiggle, wiggle to get it to close under its own weight, which is perfectly acceptable. You don't need to have a knife that drops closed just by unlocking it. But this is very smooth and very, very fast. The weight on this is 4.59 ounces. So you've got a substantial knife that you know that you're carrying. You know that's in your hand or you know that's in your pocket. No mistaking it, it's not the ATCF Lite. But it's not burdensome either. I think it's a wonderful in-between for most everybody. If you want to carry I don't want to even call this a larger size EDC, but it is for some folks at over 8.5 inches. But it's a 3.5 inch blade, so you don't have an oversized knife by any stretch of the imagination. But it is very, very easy to carry. Let's give you some close-up looks. The finishing on the blade I found to be rather unique because it's almost to where it's polished. So it's got a bit of reflectivity that I'm not accustomed to in this particular style of knife, but it looks really, really good. Now, if this had been bead blasted, sure, you might have had that, super combat, tactical kind of feel to it because it's non-reflective, but you would have introduced more of the possibility of corrosion. Even though it's magna cut, it's probably never going to corrode because you're opening up the pores of the steel. This, they're taking an already very, very corrosive resistant blade material, and then they're closing the pores even further, making it further corrosion resistant, which I think is a fantastic idea. And I like the look of it. Makes it look a little bit more special. Everything is fitted together really, really nicely. They did a good job all the way around. And I like the thickness that they chose to go with on the scales. Because the last custom ATCF that I handled was one that was being offered for the R1 Invitational. For those that don't know, that's Recon One's special online knife shows. And I had the wonderful opportunity of presenting the carbo tie version of the ATCF. And I had a really, really, really hard time not buying it myself. The thickness of the handle, the way that it felt, everything about that knife was absolutely dream-worthy. And this comes really, really close dimensionally to how that knife felt. And I really like that. And the great thing is I've had the chance to handle them literally back to back. So it wasn't like, oh, I handled an original custom 6 months ago, and now I'm playing with this today, and I'm going to give you my thoughts. No, literally back to back, overlapping by, I think, a day. And it was a real treat. Wonderful, serendipitous kind of event. And I got to tell you, Fox did a bang-up job on this. For the fact that you're getting this for $269 is crazy. I would easily say they could have charged $100, $150 more and been easily justified. I mean, maybe they would have had to upgrade the handle material to be, worth that much more money. But I think overall, this is a solid investment for somebody that actually wants to own, carry, and use the knife. Absolutely. His customs may be cost prohibitive for most people. You're not going to walk up to his table and drop $2,000 or $3,000 on a knife and then go out and start abusing it the next day. At least most people wouldn't. This one, you can enjoy actually having this and using it as a knife. And that's pretty damn wonderful. So to Bob, I salute you. All the years that you've been doing this and you have not missed a step. And by allowing us to be able to access such legendary designs in a production knife that's much more approachable, especially in this economy, was a great, great option. And with the cost of materials having gone up as much as they have, you know, there was a time that you could have bought this knife during my time of collecting, you know, for $1,400 for an ATCF custom from Bob. Now, obviously, if you go way back before my time, way back, you know, they may have been several $100s. I don't know what they sold for back in the 80s and in the 90s. I apologize. But yeah, there was a time when they were much, I don't want to say more accessible, but economically, financially more accessible. And now materials have gone up. Bob can't make anywhere near as many knives as he used to because, you know, we're all getting older. And he's probably not going to push himself the way that he did when he was in his 30s, 40s, and even 50s. So each knife is more expensive now. And let's be honest, you are paying for a legacy as well. You are buying into one of the most famous knife designs in the history of knife making. And it's so great to be able to say that about a knife that is still currently available, both in custom and production form, from a maker that's still alive and making knives. It's a wonderful thing to be able to say because there are a lot of famous designs out there, you know. Go back as far as you want to go back. Go back into Loveless designs and things like that. What's there is there, and that's it. There will never be more, unfortunately. And with Terzuola's designs, we still get to enjoy these knives, even though they have reached that level of epic, legendary proportions. And that's pretty damn cool. Anyway, I'm going to end it with that and move on to the next video, and I'll see you guys next time.